Stanford University.
This is the second annual symposium of the Stanford Neurosciences Institute, and it's a day of celebration of the end of our second year of operation. We started in September of 2013, and it has been an extremely busy year for myself, for the staff, for the executive committee, and for many of you who have been incredibly cooperative and helpful in getting our programs underway. As all of you know, this institute was started it was a presidential initiative, the president and provost a couple of years ago, in recognition of the fact that the study of the brain and the nervous system has the potential to catalyze a community of scholarship across this entire campus, including not just the traditional biomedical sciences by any stretch of the imagination, but also engineering and also large sections of H&S, the sciences, as well as the social sciences, and even extending in, we've had projects that have started that extend into the law school and into the School of Education, and we really feel like this effort is going to generate substantial momentum, and that we in neuroscience, who have been in neuroscience all our lives, have a lot to learn from everyone on campus who takes sort of human behavior and the quantitative analysis of human behavior seriously. And after all, behavior defines the playing field that neuroscience wants to understand and explain. And we feel like neuroscience has a lot to bring to the disciplines of engineering and social sciences as well. So this is a grand experiment, and the grand experiment is well underway. I don't get you in one room very often, so I just wanted to take a few minutes here, my few minutes, to highlight some of the things that have happened. We have begun hiring faculty for the Institute, and we're doing this in conjunction with departments, of course. And one of our new faculty, who we offered a job to, and are pleased to say that he accepted last year, is here. I saw Dan. Dan, just stand up for a moment over there. Dan's in the corner. This is Dan Yeamans, and Dan is a theoretical neuroscientist his home department is psychology, but we hope to have him extend his theory and computational skills for collaborations with many of us neuroscientists, experimentalists across campus. The second one, who I think may not join us till later in the morning, is Paul Nuyukian. I don't think Paul is here, but Paul is an MD, PhD, a PhD in bioengineering, and Paul is actually going to be in the Department of Bioengineering. And he's one of these people crossing this increasingly porous boundary between the School of Medicine and the School of Engineering to bring devices and data analytic insights into empirical neuroscience. And then we have a third search going on this year in molecular neuroscience, and Tom Sudhoff has kindly agreed to chair that search, and we have a great search committee going. We don't know what our partner department will be yet. There are 8 departments represented on this search committee, amazingly. So Tom is going to have his hands full herding these cats, but we believe that the cats will get to a good place in the end. We have had just an extraordinarily talented and pleasant group of 6 postdoctoral scholars who are our first winners of the SNI Interdisciplinary Postdoctoral Scholars Awards, and these folks represent, between their mentors and the projects that they pick out, they're doing cross-cutting work between engineering, H&S, and School of Medicine. And even within the School of Medicine, in engineering, we have multiple departments involved. And we're just so very pleased. The XCOM met with these 6 young people Monday and had a great scientific time with them, sort of going over their projects and hearing what they were excited about. And it was really wonderful. We also appointed our first 3 graduate student fellowships in the past year. We're part of the SIGF, Stanford Interdisciplinary Graduate Fellowship Program, and SNI affiliated SIGFs were appointed for the first time this past year, and there will be 2 or 3 others coming up in the coming year. So we're very pleased to be involved both in supporting interdisciplinary postdoctoral training and graduate training. At the faculty level, we have in the past year given out our first round of seed grants that are by design. They're set up to enhance collaborative research and allow people just to take a flyer on an idea, one that's out there, one that could have big payoff if it works, but knowing that it may not work, because by definition it's risky, but the kind of thing that's so hard to get support for with traditional funding agencies these days, who kind of want to know a sure thing for the precious dollars they're handing out. But here we really want to encourage people to do their most innovative work, and we handed out the first 5 seed grants in the past year. And just for those of you who want to know, we have arranged this so that we'll be doing those seed grants every other year, and we'll be out of phase with BioX. So one year BioX will be going, the next year we'll be going, and every year there will be interdisciplinary seed grant opportunities available for neuroscientists. And of course, we spent quite a bit of time talking over the past 2 years. You spent quite a bit of time talking among yourselves about how people from the different disciplines could interact together to do something even bigger here at Stanford. And out of that process germinated our Big Ideas in Neuroscience program that launched this past year, and we're trying to sort of figure out how to take seed grants to another level. How can we do something beyond the one-on-one sort of typical collaboration of the seed grants and put larger assemblies of people together and actually raise substantial amounts of funds that will allow larger collaboratives to focus on an important problem and do things together that wouldn't be possible with each person working on their own. And we've had success in those. The progress reports for the phase 1, the first year of phase 1, are due in November, I think, very soon, November, December, and we're going to be very interested to see what sort of progress has been made, so get to work on your progress reports. Phase 1 will end a year from now, a year and a half from now, and there will be a rigorous review, and we'll consider passing on successful ones to phase 2, where we really hope to enable larger scope work. And we also hope to have another round, if everything works out well on fundraising, we hope to have another round of phase 1 too, because we want to keep this alive and dynamic and don't want to just fossilize 2 or 3 things. So we have verbal pledges for about $8 million for phase 2 at this point. Our goal is 35 million. If we get there, we'll be in great shape, and Mara and I and others are working hard on that. So we are coming along. And then finally, the planning for the building is going along. Many of you have been involved in that process, and we really appreciate the time that you have put in. Thought and time put in now will pay off in a great product in 2018 when this thing is supposed to open. We are meeting all the deadlines, the targets for the county and for the architects. What we simply need is one naming donor. So if anyone here would like to write us a check for $100 million, see me right after the end of this thing. Seriously, there's a process in place, and we're talking to a number of potential friends of Stanford who might be interested in this sort of thing. But that's sort of what we're really focused on right now. The planning itself, per se, is going along extremely well. So those are kind of the highlights from the last year, and as I look back, it's been a whirlwind, and I want to thank each of you who've been personally involved in our review committees and in helping us plan the laboratories and sort of conceive them, really more than the detailed planning, conceiving how we can build these things in a way that will enable the most creative interflow of ideas between the disciplines that we want to involve. So I'll shut up for now and get off and get on to our main event here, which is the science. And we are fortunate to have 3 outstanding external speakers, people who are leaders in neuroscience worldwide, and 3 equally outstanding internal speakers from here at Stanford. And we will cross the gamut today from public policy, from nitty-gritty discovery, basic research, and all the way to engineering new devices that allow us to make new and better prosthetics by the end of the day. And it's my pleasure first to introduce our beginning speaker, who is Steve Hyman. And Steve comes to us from the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. Many of you know Steve well, but I'm sure that several of you do not. So for you, I will just say that Steve is the director of the Stanley Center for Psychiatric Research. Steve is a psychiatrist himself, and he's director of the Stanley Center for Psychiatric Research at the Broad. Formerly, he was provost at Harvard, and before that, he had a life. He tells me he was too young to know what he was getting into at the time, but he was director of the National Institute of Mental Health in Washington. And when he was there, he had a huge influence on sort of reconceiving diagnosis and our ways of thinking about psychiatric disease, and really bringing genetics and neuroscience and evidence-based thinking into the way we conceive disease and treat disease. And he's simply had a very outstanding impact on the practice of mental health here in the United States, on the development of Harvard University under his provostship as maintaining and developing additional strength in the sciences, and now as leader of the Stanley Center at the Broad Institute, which has exceptional potential to help us rethink translational psychiatric research, which will be the topic of his talk today. So please join me in welcoming Steve Hyman.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.